Then we have director's report, item 4. And, I think, Charlie, you've got several things here for us.
Yes, I've got a few things listed on your agenda specifically. Before we get to those, I would just like to fill you in on a few other things that are going on, sort of routine reports. First, what the City Council has been doing since you last met. They've had 2 meetings on March 1st and March 15th. On March 1st, the Council held a study session on the new east span of the Bay Bridge with Professor Astani, and heard some interesting facts and figures about that. They also adopted the Alameda County Waste Management Authority's multifamily green building guidelines as an official city reference. You may recall that you approved that in January. So that document is now an official city reference source. And they introduced the ordinance to apply the public art fee to residential and live-work projects at a rate of 0.5% of construction valuation. That was introduced on March 1st and passed on March 15th, so it is in effect, it will be in effect 30 days after March 15th. And that, as I'm sure you recall, was approved by the Commission at your last meeting. On March 15th, the Council held a study session on greenway design, specifically the design of the segments between 65th and 67th, and also the section down by Hollis and Powell Streets. They approved the updated general plan and zoning maps. So those beautiful new maps that you have seen at your last couple of meetings are now the official city zoning and general plan maps. We're really happy about that. They also adopted an urgency ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance regarding reasonable accommodations. That item was listed on tonight's agenda, but we've continued it to the April meeting to give staff a little more time to look at it. But it is currently in effect as an urgency ordinance in the interim, just to cover ourselves until a regular ordinance is passed. The redevelopment agency on March 15th authorized the city manager to respond to the state's request for proposals for a permanent home for the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, also known as the Stem Cell Research Institute. As you probably know, their temporary home is in Emeryville at Emory Station, and the state issued an RFP for a permanent home. We are in the running with the likes of San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, cities on the peninsula and so forth. We think we have a pretty good chance, but we'll see. Stay tuned. Finally, the council has scheduled a retreat for Monday, April 11th. This is an all-day retreat. We'll focus on the capital improvement program, budgeting issues, and other such topics. Usually at council retreats there are some specific planning or redevelopment projects or issues that are also discussed. I'm not aware of any such items on this retreat's agenda.
What are the hours for that?
It starts at 8:30 and it goes till it's over.
Is it here?
It will be, I believe it will be here in this room. Monday, April 11th. Regarding the general plan update, the steering committee met day before yesterday for its regular meeting. Brainstorming was held for what questions to ask the citizenry in the survey that's going to be conducted, and the ongoing discussion of issues was continued. Today, we held a tour of Emeryville with the consultants. That went on for most of the day. Started at 9 this morning, and we wrapped up around 2 o'clock this afternoon. I think our consultants were somewhat awed by how much is going on in our 1.2 square miles, but everybody was quite excited and enthusiastic about that tour. And then this coming Saturday, day after tomorrow, the entire steering committee will be taking a tour of smart growth development in Oakland, Berkeley, and San Francisco. This is a noticed public meeting of the steering committee, so it's open to the public and anybody who wants to attend, provided there's enough room on the bus. I will say we already have an attendance list. People have been very good about contacting Deborah Diamond, our project manager, to let her know that they want to come. And we have already ordered lunches, so anyone who shows up at the last minute is welcome to join us, but they may end up having to buy their own lunch. last time I told you that we were going to be installing 2 mock-up signs of the wayfinding program adjacent here to Old Town Hall. They have now been installed. If you haven't seen them yet, go out and take a look. One is over here on 40th Street, and the other one is right over here on Hollis. I would comment, the one on 40th Street, you'll notice, is on a pole that's kind of set back into the landscaping. Wasn't supposed to be there. It was supposed to be on a pole that was closer to the street, but apparently the new cameras that take pictures of the red light runners were in the way, and so they had to put it on this other pole.
Just caught me yesterday.
So that is all I have to report on other than what is on the agenda.
Charlie, I do have one question on one of the very first things that you mentioned, the study session on the bridge and Professor Astani. My memory is that there was actually some action that was taken on that, going to the League of Cities or something like that.
I think it was the mayor's conference.
The mayor's conference.
The mayor's conference was asked to pass a resolution in support of the self-anchored suspension bridge, and at our urging, our city council's urging, our mayor's urging, and I guess the urging of Professor Astani and others, that resolution was put on, was continued by the mayor's conference. The concern about the bridge design was, well, Professor Astani has a number of concerns about it, but he says, and he is an expert in this field and has been retained by Caltrans to do lots of other studies. He feels that this particular design is not particularly safe, and it could be improved by some very simple means, but that's not the way it's designed right now. The problem is that the cables would come from the one tower, they would come down, and then they would wrap under the bridge and then go back up again. And he says basically that's not anchored to anything. It's just anchored to itself, which in the event of an earthquake, it would just could just kind of come apart. And he's advocating that the cables go down and be anchored into rock or something, the way the other suspension bridge is. He also says the existing bridge is not that unsafe. It's actually probably a better seismic design than the one that's replacing it. I don't even want to get into that. But yeah, you're right.
Okay.
I think that was the action that I remember.
Yeah, and I think actually, if I remember right, that was a unanimous action on the part of the city council.
I believe you're right. I think it was.
Thank you.
Any other questions on anything I've reported on so far? Well, as